I know we've discussed endometriosis on BBC Essex in the past. It's a condition that has a significant presence in our county, according to recent research. It indicates that up to 50% of women with infertility may have endometriosis, potentially affecting thousands of couples struggling with fertility issues. Well, August this month is Auto-Inflammatory Awareness Month, and joining me now to raise awareness of this is Karen Botha from Romford. Now, Karen has been personally affected by endometriosis and is a specialist in endometriosis-related infertility. Good afternoon, Karen. It's a tricky word.
It is. You're not alone in not being able to say it properly. It's one of those things, you just got to go with it. It often gets called endo.
Absolutely. I think we'll call it endo from now on.
Yeah, it's easier.
First things first, for those who may not be aware, could you tell us what endometriosis is, please?
Okay, so it traditionally was thought that endometriosis was the lining of your womb as a female that was growing outside of that womb area, so at different areas in your body. Actually, what has recently become apparent, or more recently, is that actually isn't the case. It is tissue that is similar. It represents the lining of the womb, but it isn't actually that lining of the womb. And so it can be found all over the body. No one's entirely sure exactly why some people have it and some people don't, because even men can have it as well.
Okay, it's one of those things where they're learning more and more about it as time goes on, aren't they? Does endometriosis have any hidden symptoms?
There's a lot of symptoms that you wouldn't necessarily think about as, oh, that's a trigger, that has to be endometriosis, I must go and get a diagnosis, which is why there is so many women that are walking around with it, either struggling with infertility or not, that probably have it and don't even realise. So, for example, feeling constantly exhausted, that chronic fatigue that you can get sometimes, that can be as a result of all sorts of things, but it can also be as a result of endometriosis. Painful periods, often put down to, even by medical doctors, as being, oh, well, that's just part of being a woman, but not necessarily. It doesn't have to be painful. If all of your hormones are in balance, then your chance of having a painful period is really minimal. And the same with intercourse as well. That can be the same sorts of issues. You can have pain when going to the toilet, which you wouldn't necessarily think is down to this issue, but because everything gets bound together, because this endometrial-like tissue is sticky, because the idea of that tissue is that it can hold an egg into the edge of your womb. And so when that's elsewhere, it's like scar tissue that's sticking your organs together. So you can even have lower back pain, and that can be a sign of endometriosis.
If you don't mind me asking, how has endometriosis affected your life?
So I was having actually many of the issues that we just discussed, and I did not realise what it was all about. At that point, I wasn't the expert on it that I am now. It's very often the case, isn't it, that when you're affected by something, then you go down this rabbit hole of becoming the expert yourself, but often too late. So I had to go into hospital and have an operation. And that operation was keyhole, but it is to remove this tissue from the different areas where it was stuck. And in my case, it was stuck all over the place, but even all the way up to my kidneys, and it was wrapped around there. So the surgeon couldn't get all of the tissue. They couldn't get it all. So then they gave me some drugs afterwards in the form of an injection, which happens to lots of people. This isn't necessarily an unusual situation. However, what happened as a result of that and as a consequence is that I ended up in early menopause,
right?
Because of the drugs that they'd given me. And obviously, that has fertility issues in itself. That being said, endometriosis causes fertility issues most generally. Even people with unexplained infertility, generally, they'll say about 50% of those women will have endometriosis, but they just don't know.
Yeah. Was your diagnosis quite a quick one, or did it take some time?
It took some time, but to be honest, it took some time because I went to the doctors late.
Okay.
Because I didn't pieced everything together in the same way that lots of women don't. So it took me a while to get to the doctors, and then I finally did get there. And he was a bit like, well, I don't really know what's going on. Let's send you in and see if we can get a scan. Scan didn't really show anything. It doesn't for this particular issue. So then they thought it could be anything, including cancer, which was actually a really scary time.
Yeah.
I went in, had to sign my rights away. They might have to do a history, anything. Basically, if you want to live, then sign the form. And it's not an ultimatum, but it's one that you give yourself.
Yeah.
And I went in, and when I came out, I was actually quite thankful it was only endometriosis until I realised what was going on as a result of it.
Of course.
At least it was cancer. But they don't know, you see. They don't know until they go in and dig around.
Now, it's become apparent to us with the research recently that it's got a significant presence in our county. Why do you think it's such an issue for us here in Essex? So the way that I work when I help my ladies who have endometriosis is we get down to the root cause. One of the big root causes here is inflammation. One of the big root causes of inflammation is stress. So you look at our modern lifestyle, not necessarily in and around London, but that's where we're based, and it affects us. So we have a lot of stress, whether that be stress because we're trying to juggle careers and families and busy, social lives. It all plays a factor into it. So the more stress you're under, the less energy your body has to do all the other stuff that's in and around fertility or, ancillary, if you like, to just basic living. So that eats up what we call your fertility bandwidth. It eats it away because it's using too much for day-to-day living because you're loading this extra stress onto your body. Now, that stress could be the stress that we just described, but it could also be toxins in the environment because they're putting a stress on your body, the things that we eat, the things that we drink. Yeah.
All of this external stuff is a stress of one form or another on your body, and that is then eating away at this fertility bandwidth.
Okay, well, Karen Botha is specialist in endometriosis-related infertility. Karen is from Romford, and with August being Auto-Inflammatory Awareness Month, there's lots of issues around that. Now, Karen, couples obviously trying for a baby. It can be obviously problematic with that, and they get to think, oh, this is just not happening. Are there any other issues with fertility that couples face that you wouldn't think of right away?
Yeah, so firstly, if we're just talking about endo as opposed to infertility, it can take 7 to 8 years to get that diagnosis because it's so difficult to get it diagnosed. So we talked about my story earlier on, but I was quite quick. So if you can imagine as a couple, you're trying to get pregnant, the woman's got the mood swings, she's got some pain when you're having your intimacy, that in itself can create problems between couples because there's a tension there, a disconnect because there's no common ground to connect on. There's no understanding of what's happening. And I see that a lot in my ladies, but particularly then when they do get diagnosed and they're speaking about a baby and we are going through the different treatment options, it's very common for them to say, I hope I'm not going to lose my husband as a result of this. Oh. Because they then feel the responsibility. And so there's a disconnect on that side as well. And then we go into some counselling and, we start working with things in a different way. So that is one side of it that is, really, truly important. But also on a completely different side to it, it can affect your social life because these symptoms, this pain that you can get, the heavy bleeds that can come as a result of it, the mood swings, it can all come on just like that so quickly. And so you can be planning to go out with your friends and then you just cannot do it. You cannot face it, or your body just won't allow you to go. And so that then creates issues, not just in the couples because the partner feels that they're always having to go on their own or they're having to cancel because of something that's out of their control, but also with friends and family as well. So they're constantly being let down by this one person, and then there's a tension between those relationships as well. So it can cause all sorts of problems, and then obviously the economic impact, which people don't really plan for. When you're buying your new house and you're furnishing the bedroom for the new baby, and you're getting excited about those things. You don't plan for the economic impact of it not all running smoothly. And we do have the NHS, which is excellent, but I think you did a programme a week ago or something about the long waiting times that you would get in with all sorts of things, not just endometriosis related. But sometimes there isn't the time to wait, because if you've taken 7 to 8 years to get diagnosed,
of course,
time's running out, that clock's ticking.
Clock's ticking, yeah, absolutely. What are the current treatment options out there at the moment?
Okay, so in terms of treatment options at the minute, there are medications for the pain relief. You can have over-the-counter ibuprofen, whatever, and then you can have oral contraceptives, things that are prescribed by your medical doctor. Because the idea is with endometriosis that you're trying to balance the hormones by reducing estrogen levels. So if doctors can do that with a pill, that's brilliant. However, when you're trying to deal with fertility, that's not going to work, is it? Because you need your cycle to be running naturally as opposed to being stopped with the pill. So then we get to the surgical interventions, like I was describing with myself, things like that, where the surgeon will go in and actually remove the tissue, allow everything to flow a bit more naturally as God intended, if you like. But that will only last for a really short period of time. And so there's definitely a time sensitivity to that in terms of tie-in. And then obviously fertility treatments. But the issue is that the IVFs, the IUIs, they tend to be less successful in these patients because of the complications. And so that's where I come in with my way of dealing with the root cause as opposed to dealing with the symptoms such as the hormones, because it's the root cause that's sending the hormones out of balance. So then I'm looking at lifestyle factors and what it is that's loading this stress onto the fertility bandwidth so that the hormones are out of whack, because there's always a cause for it, there's always something, and generally speaking that is going to be some form of inflammation, as we discussed earlier on. So we're looking at all sorts of different things, but one thing that is truly effective is reflexology.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's the feet, isn't it?
Yeah, there's different pressure points on your feet. So a lot of people don't really understand reflexology that well, but they've heard of acupuncture. So if you think acupuncture is creating pathways in the body by piercing the skin with needles, then if I was to do reflexology, I'm doing something really simple, releasing the energy flow, but by using pressure points on your feet. You can have pressure points all over, but I will use the feet on the pressure points.
I'm ticklish, so it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
No, seriously, it does. It does, because you can stand it, because it's a different kind of pressure. I'll come in and show you someday.
No. Oh, it's making me... Oh, I can't. Oh, no, even thinking about it.
What have you let yourself in for now?
So if anyone is listening at the moment who thinks, maybe I am experiencing the symptoms that Karen is describing here in endometriosis, what's the first thing they should do?
You should go and see your doctor. You should go see your doctor and see if you can get a diagnosis, because that is probably going to take some time. So get that in the bag. However, if you think that we were talking about the stress and the way that your body's working, if you think there are things that you can do to your body to reduce that stress, i.e. inflammation on the way your body's working, there's no reason for you not to be doing that now. Now, the thing is that you can affect that in different ways for different people, because the thing with endometriosis, it does not affect everybody in the same way. So some symptoms might affect one person, another person still has endometriosis, but they have completely different symptoms, and therefore the root cause and how that is manifested through your lifestyle is going to affect it. So it is quite personal, but generally if you think you're eating quite a high acidic diet, that's going to be putting some sort of a load on your system. If you are going out partying all night, that's going to be putting a load on your system. If you are not drinking enough water, that's going to be putting a load on your system, because water runs your lymphatic system, which is the waste system in your body. And so if you don't have the nutrient coming in to power it, your waste is just going to sit there. And when that sits there, your cells start to get affected and don't reproduce effectively. Without going into all the science. If we all remember mitosis from school, that's where we're going with it.
Absolutely. Listen, you said you've had the surgery now. How are you feeling now? You all okay?
I'm absolutely fine now, thank you. I am
That's good.
completely fine. Yeah. No pain, no issues. But it took me some time. It took me years to get to the bottom of this and to understand it. Really start to figure out what the cause was and to sort that out.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we've sort of pushed people that may be thinking, yeah, this sounds like my symptoms. You push them in the right direction with where they should be going in the future.
Yeah, there's a ton of information on our website as well, which is essentialfeeling.co.uk. And there's an endofertility formula section on there, but there's all sorts of information on there as well. So people can go on and just read so much. And I've done some videos and stuff as well.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thank you for joining us today, Karen. Go and enjoy the sunshine now.